Many countries want to join BRICS, and it's because the G7 is moving faster than BRICS. I've been focusing on this because many people think that BRICS isn't that big and that what they're doing isn't really affecting the dollar or dollar dominance. That is a very bad idea, though, because what the BRICS were doing was a case of death by 1,000 cuts, where all of these big moves by the BRICS over the past few years, starting with the sanctions against Russia, have led to stress building up over and over again. It's also making things very difficult for countries other than the US that use the dollar as their main currency. Yes, the dollar is pretty strong, but what you should really be paying attention to here is how power is shifting and how growth is going in the BRICS countries compared to the G7. As I said, we'll be focusing on this in this video as well. It's official 159 of the 193 countries that have signed up to use the new BRIC deal tool. No longer will the US and EU be able to use economic penalties as a weapon. And let's just be honest here. The penalties have not worked at all. The BRICS have done nothing but bad things for the US. As we think about this right now, it has increased their push to not only reinvent the wheel financially, but also to grow quickly. If we look down right here, we see that this system lets countries settle trades and bills in their own currencies, making them less dependent on the US dollar, which has long been the most important currency in the world. Not only is there a big change in the world order to a new one, but there is also a change in how finance is done, especially cross-border payments and exchange transactions. Finance as a whole is moving away from paper-based processes and toward more virtual ones. Some BRICS countries are already looking into CBDCs or virtual currencies, which is something I leave to Covens and Tom. But even here at the 30th or 39th Annual International Banking Seminar, the governor of the South African Reserve Bank was asked to talk about the BRICS Forex and price machine. I did find his response interesting, especially when he gave up and said that there could be a Forex market without any limits or a main bank is going to be a cool foreign currency to go with. Check this out. So the real question is, we've all heard a lot about the BRICS currency lately, and the alternative value device probably doesn't need much of an explanation. But if I may put it another way, does the practical implementation of some kind of non-dollar trend depend more on the BRICS countries themselves or on what the United States does or doesn't do? I think about the main question, David's question from the sidewalk in the streets of Washington, D.C., around the arena. This is what everyone was talking about. Does the BRICS talk about foreign money and the reasons and causes behind it matter for the banks? We've been talking about how our price systems can work with each other. This is why we're wasting time talking about cross-border bills. That's why we're putting in our effort. As important bankers, we haven't been questioning talking about a currency at all. We can't decide what currency to use because that's a political matter. So someone has to make a political choice and say that's what will happen. But take a look at what's been going on in Greece. A stop line has been set up at the People's Bank of China. They have a rem in by clearing middle in Johannesburg. If there aren't enough RMB, we could put RMB into the trading system. If there aren't enough higher, we could do the same. The Indians have been talking about that, and we can set a change line with them. The BRICS have a contingency reserve arrangement that lets us work together on this. And we've tried it and it works. Let's just say that one of the countries couldn't quite settle because they're not allowed to go anywhere, so we can't deal with them. That's why we're now working on a global project. And I have to say that I have a personal stake in the FSB's Move on the Border Bills Committee. Because of this, I'm personally interested in payments and making sure that we were given green, cost-effective fee systems that work. Our attention is now on that, and it is being done with the help of the limits of big banks. Politicians will have to make a choice somewhere else about currencies. A currency without borders and without an important financial institution will be exciting for Forex to go along with, and we're already starting to see that. Foreign money that isn't married may be changing everything to fake CBDCs. They are now real. They're growing around the world no matter if people like them or not. CBDC is now being pushed by almost all of the good banks. But you already know that as we watch some of these currencies, we are also seeing the rise of currencies. We are also seeing the rise of currencies that don't have to do with countries. Some of these currencies are already here. For example, XRP is already here. If we look at what's going on right now, the BRICS use of XRP is probably not right. I've talked about this in a number of films before, but there are some brick and mortar games who are directly connected to XRP in big ways. When we really think about what's going on, we can see that we're entering a very different world and a new order of things in the world. This is getting bigger because of the BRICS. It's as simple as this Russian President Putin says the BRICS summit shows that a new world order is taking shape. And if you look at the BRICS right now, they're starting to gain quickly on the G7. This has been going on for a while. In 1995, the G7 had about 44.9% of GDP, while the BRICS had 16.9%. By 2010, the G7 had about 34.3%, down from 26.6% in 2005. Now we're back to 22.39% versus 31%. And even now, if we look at this through the lens of 2025, the BRICS will be quickly outpacing the G7 in GDP growth, and this may continue to happen. This is something that everyone should be paying attention to because the BRICS information has been exaggerated in some ways, but many people are ignoring it because they don't think it's a major risk right now. But what we've seen in the last couple of months across the BRICS could be very huge. And the things that have been happening outside of the United States are even more amazing because mainstream media isn't covering what the BRICS are doing. No matter what the BRICS are doing, if there is anything good that they are doing, you should know about any important things that could be going around the BRICS. In this case, it's not being reported on. Not a single news outlet will ever report that the BRICS are quickly growing faster than the G7 in GDP. Why? Wow, that's right. It shows that the BRICS countries are taking over the world's power and control. It also draws attention to the fact that the US and the US dollar are losing ground. Besides this, though, we have the G7 countries agreeing to send Ukraine $50 billion in frozen Russian assets. The reason we see GDP is for this reason. We are seeing dominance, and we will see power in the end. Having seen the end of the US dollar in the USA is because right now, as we look at what's happening, dominance is being taken away. There might be no rise, there is no boom at all, and the economic coverage of the G7 is a total joke. We are looking at the real-time end of a kingdom. The new world order is coming. This is already happening. And I also said the other day that Russia is currently in talks with other BRICS players about expanding in the global precious metals market. As an alternative, this will compete with Western trading systems like the London metals market and could protect change from penalties.